I want to say to all of our viewers that Bruchim Habayim, welcome. These are very tough days for Israel, our friends and loved ones in Israel. And nonetheless, with all the many things that our amazing colleagues at the Israel Defense Forces are doing, they've taken time. I'm pleased to have someone who's we've had the pleasure at the America-Israel Friendship League to hear from previously, but never under circumstances like this before, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, who has done such an amazing job explaining the current situation and prior military challenges that Israel has faced. It's not, I think, the only thing I can say by way of introduction is that we know as we speak, Israeli families are grieving, and we know that Israeli forces are in harm's way as we speak, and all of our thoughts and prayers first and foremost go to the people who are defending and protecting Eretz Israel at this very moment. And many of us have very, very heavy hearts, but we know the professional work of the Israel Defense League goes on 24/7. So Colonel Conricus, I know you are rushing at the moment to deal with a situation on the ground. Can you please share with us a bit of the current situation as much as you're able to?
Yes, I thank you for this audience, and I apologize for being in less than ideal studio circumstances. I am rushing to base and filling in. The situation is unfolding, unraveling quickly as we speak. We are now actively fighting on 2, perhaps 3 fronts. This was true yesterday as well, but with gusto today. Fighting in Gaza continues, and the area of southern Israel is still an active combat zone with continuous attacks from Gaza towards southern Israel, attempts to infiltrate towards Israeli communities, and several reports of clashes between terrorists and Israeli troops in the south. Hamas has persisted in trying to get into Israel, sending their death squads to different communities. The big difference between what happened on Shabbat morning and now is that southern Israel is saturated with Israeli soldiers, troops, special forces, police that are ready to respond, deployed in really all over southern Israel, and meeting these attacks quickly on the ground. And that's why we hear reports of clashes, but fortunately not anybody additional Israeli casualties, and I hope that remains the situation. We continue to bomb the Gaza Strip from the air. We are targeting Hamas, their military infrastructure, and we have struck them quite hard over the last day. We will continue to strike their military infrastructure, and wherever there is even the slightest piece of intelligence of the presence of Hamas seniors, Hamas infrastructure, Hamas military hardware, rockets, command post personnel, we will strike that location with the purpose of killing terrorists. That is what the business that we are in now. And I may say that the rules of engagement, we are still committed to the law of armed conflict. We still remain a humane and law-abiding military, but we are a military on a mission in war, fighting an extremely cruel enemy. And I won't go beyond that and say bombastic statements which will then be misinterpreted by the media, even though I am here amongst friends. On the northern front, reports coming in as we are speaking of what appears to be an aerial assault, unconfirmed. I do not have confirmed IDF details yet, whether it is drones, gliders with engines, or Buckeyes, I think Americans call it, or small UAVs. I do not yet have confirmed IDF information what it is. Something is afoot in northern Israel. Some attack appears to be ongoing from northern Israel, and Israeli troops are alert, deployed, and responding to the situation. Needless to say, Hezbollah is responsible for everything happening in southern Lebanon, and if there's a significant aggression from southern Lebanon, clearly that is done by Hezbollah, and clearly our response will be against Hezbollah. Golan, there have been strikes, artillery, rockets fired yesterday. We've retaliated. It appears that this was a Palestinian militia, a Palestinian little Iranian proxy that fired towards the Golan Heights. No casualties, and we responded towards the area, and we are also deployed there. We have significant reserve forces deployed in southern Israel, more than 300,000, and these are ground units. We're not talking about Air Force or intelligence or media warfare. We're talking about hardened, battle-ready Israeli soldiers that are getting ready to perform tasks according to their mission. And I'm talking infantry, armor, artillery, combat engineers. The common denominator between all of them is that these are ground forces. And I will not elaborate further as to what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, but I can only say that these are the units, and they're in the south, and they are deployed and getting ready to perform the task in the south. Casualties. Sadly, grotesquely, we are talking about 1,200 dead Israelis and almost 3,000 wounded Israelis. Astronomical figures that no Israeli spokesperson has ever said about numbers of civilian casualties. It is tremendous, it is overwhelming, and the atrocities are becoming apparent as we speak. In the IDF Spokesperson Unit, we are making every effort to show this to the world. Yesterday, we brought dozens, I think 50 or 60 reporters, international reporters from the international media, CNN, all of the big American outlets, all of the news agencies, to have them show to the world the atrocities that Israeli communities face. Yesterday it was Kfar Aza. Today we took them to Be'eri, another used to be tranquil Israeli community, to show the monstrosity, the violence, and the barbaric acts of these Palestinian terrorists that are, they have surpassed the brutality of ISIS. They are not like ISIS, they have surpassed the brutality of ISIS in their gleeful execution of Israeli civilians, murder of babies. There are reports which at this stage I, as an IDF representative, cannot confirm, but I have heard confirmations from first-hand sources from Zaka, of a person, regional manager of the southern region of Zaka, quoted in CBS saying that he saw beheaded children. I, as an IDF, have not seen and cannot confirm officially, but that is information that is out there, and it just adds to the outrage and horrible feelings that we're feeling in Israel, and I'm sure that you're seeing as well. I don't have time for questions. I apologize, and I know that there's lots of good people on this call here, and there's lots of goodwill. I really cherish that, and I will channel your love, good thoughts, and prayers for all of us. I know that many of you are involved in doing good for Israel, and that you're concerned and worried and frightened and angry, and maybe you're facing attacks in your communities by anti-Semites, and I call on you to stand strong, just as we are now standing up, dusting ourselves off, and beginning to face our enemies and deliver a decisive blow to whoever has had the audacity and the cruelty to attack us. First and foremost, Hamas, but I anticipate that there will be other terrorists lining up, and we shall treat them the same. Last word, U.S. support, absolutely crucial. If you have ties to American legislators, I ask you, keep the pressure on. I want these legislators to continue to unequivocally stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel and support Israel, our right to defend ourselves, and then put their actions into words and make sure that Israel has all it needs in order to continue to defend itself. Munitions, Iron Dome interceptors, spare parts for our military weaponry, which is all American planes and tanks, or tanks are Israeli, but planes, etc. That is what we will be needing, but we will be relying on U.S. diplomatic support and sustenance. We will fight for ourselves. We will defend ourselves. We are not asking for anybody to be killed or be wounded in order to defend us. That we will do ourselves, but we do need the support and tools. And if anybody of you have the ability to assist, please do. I thank you. I hope that you follow our media, our social media. I do daily updates on Twitter and Facebook, usually evening hours US time. I do a daily wrap up, and my outstanding colleagues in the IDF Spokesperson Unit are on all of the media outlets, the US and the European, and all over the world, speaking in all of the languages, German, French, Russian. Of course, we have many English speakers, and we are out there fighting the media fight, just as our brothers and sisters on the ground doing the real work, the men and women of the IDF who are fighting, are doing what they need to do in order to set this straight. So thank you, and I apologize that I have to leave.
No apologies at all. We will send you with our blessing. There are actually three fronts in this war, as we know, and one of them is the international public opinion and media, and we are in very capable hands, having watched a number of your interviews over the last 5 days. We thank you for your service and understand that you need to now head north. Nisiat Tova, Tazik Mamad.
Thank you. Am Israel Chai. Take care,
Am
everybody.
Israel Chai. Thank you. Well, friends, we've had the, I can't call it a pleasure, but we've had the opportunity to see how Israel and Israelis react during periods of crisis, but this one is unprecedented. And indeed, everything that we are learning about it is a cause for both deep concern for all friends of Israel and for all of humanity. And we're grateful that you are here with us, and we have access to hear directly about what is happening on the ground and how that will be explained to the world. It is indeed a challenging moment. It has been for 5 days. There's no question that many of you woke up to news either on Saturday or on Sunday, or heard from others during or after many who were celebrating the end of the Jewish holidays, both outside of Israel and in Israel, to this war and the tragic consequences that we have only begun to fully appreciate and understand how this has impacted on our beloved Israel and Israeli friends. We at America-Israel Friendship League immediately came up. We were not planning on having this session, obviously. I wish I could tell you about what we were planning to do, but it seems very superfluous at the moment. Our Israeli colleagues, one of whom, our director of our Israel office, Daniela Rylov, is going to join us momentarily just to field some general questions that people may have. We had come up actually with two briefings, one for today and one on Sunday, that I just want to alert you to. The former, today's was essentially a Tmunat Matzav, a picture of the situation as it is today. And literally 15 or 20 minutes before we went on air, we heard that the IDF spokesperson who we were working with was called away because of an incident in the north that Colonel Conricus briefly described, without going into detail, some kind of concern about an infiltration from the north. I won't go into any of the details or speculate it. It's only what I've seen in the news at the moment. I do want to share that even though it was brief and shortened by the circumstances, and Colonel Conricus was gracious in essentially pulling off the road en route to northern headquarters or northern position, there indeed was an opportunity for you to at least hear and understand from a military perspective what was happening. On Sunday, we'll be bringing you Ambassador Danny Gillerman on our program at noon. That's October 15th, for an opportunity to look at the broader impacts on Israeli society, including the remarkable news from today, just hours ago, of the creation of a national unity government in Israel. We will take a look at and answer your questions in more detail as to what the impact this war has had on Israelis, Israeli society, and now obviously the Israeli government with the announcement of a national unity government with the many different implications that has. So I want to give everyone an opportunity before turning the conversation with my colleague Daniela Rylov. I see people are posting in. We're all in this together. We know there are people hurting. We know there are people who are only removed by 1 degree or 2 degrees to not only some of the 1,200 murdered Israelis that have lost their lives, but also to the hostages, as well as we heard over 300,000 troops on the Israeli side that are preparing for all of the various military contingencies in what appears now to be at a minimum on the 2 fronts in the north and the south. It remains to be seen how the extent to which that will be, and we won't speculate on that. But if any of you want to drop a prayer, a thought, an appreciation, a hope for us at this moment of crisis, we have viewed from the beginning this program as an opportunity to come together virtually. We have people calling in from all over the world. This obviously on very short notice created an opportunity for people to hear in the middle of your day for some, at the end of the day for others, about what's actually happening on the ground. And in that spirit, I want to give you each an opportunity to share what's on your mind, how you're feeling, and even to express that. If you want to do it with an emoji, if you want to do that with in Hebrew, in English, in Spanish, in Russian, in whatever language feels most appropriate for you, please feel free to do that. And we will be poring over your questions, your comments, your fears, your concerns as we prepare for our next episode with Ambassador Gillerman for Sunday. But I would like to give a second opportunity for those of you that are staying with us after the briefing to hear from the Israel director of the America-Israel Friendship League, my colleague Daniela Rylov. Daniela has the distinction of having worked for America-Israel Friendship League on both sides of the ocean when she was in New York for a period, now back in Israel with her family for a period of 20 years, and knows deeply about the concerns of people who care for Israel, but are physically outside of Israel. But at the moment, Daniela is in the north of Israel, in Binyamina. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, Daniela, where you are
Sure.
now and what's happening, on a more personal level to you and your family?
Sure. Thank you, Wayne. So as you said, we're located near Binyamina, which is basically about 15 minutes from Caesarea, in the middle. It's, I guess, northern of Tel Aviv, about 45 minutes from Haifa. And as of now, we have not received any sirens in our area. However, I can echo what you've been saying and what Jonathan was saying in the briefing. It is extremely tragic what is happening. We are in very large amounts of stress, uncertainty. The feeling since Saturday morning is completely chaotic. We are all glued to the TV 24/7, very concerned. The amount of people that were murdered, the people that are being kept hostage, the over 3,000 people that are wounded. Israel is a small place. Everybody here knows somebody that has been wounded or murdered or is in captive. I mean, it's such a magnitude. And it's just, I really, the only word I have that I keep hearing from people is that nobody has any words to describe what we are feeling.
Well, I think you said it as plainly and as honestly as can be said. This is not something that any
Right.
Israeli could even imagine would be a new reality. Can you have kids who are
Sure.
teenagers?
Yes.
What has been the disruption with school and for, just sort of the regular person going to the Makolet to get
Yeah.
some? Are there supplies that you can already begin to see are being disrupted? Are there those kind of concerns that are already hitting the common citizens?
So yes, as far as the schools, there have been no schools or any activity at all. My kids are we're all home since Saturday morning. We only go out to the garden or around if we can to get some air. Everything is empty. The streets are empty. The roads are empty. There has been a siege on supermarkets because we were told to have enough supplies of water, batteries, food for 72 hours in our mamad. I guess I don't know how you translate it, but basically
The shelter, the bomb shelter.
shelter. Well, we all have it. I mean, not all of us, but it is mandatory from a specific year in Israel to have one of those at home. So we have basically put the equipment there and ready. And it has and the kids have been, basically glued to the home. My 17-year-old obviously is more involved in what's happening. My 13 and a half, I'm keeping a very strong eye on him not to be exposed to anything. I think the videos, the social media, we've seen things that it's going to be very hard to recover. So my main concern right now is to kind of keep as much normality that I can, trying to make them, avoid any interaction with any videos or any materials that are very sensitive and just too hard for any person, let alone a 13-year-old, experience and see. And we are all, all the mothers in Israel are trying to shield our children from what is happening. And when you're in uncertainty, it's very hard to keep a normal and calm environment, which is what we are all trying to achieve these days.
Well, I'm grateful that you can speak on behalf of Israeli mothers who are our best form of protection
Yes.
in these difficult times, that I know, reading and speaking to our own friends who are sending their children to
Yes.
the Northern Front or the Southern Front, and doing so.
Many of my
some
friends,
them,
by the way, their children are in combat as we speak, and it is very
I don't know if
terrifying.
you've seen these reports, or know people who have had kids who are done essentially with their service, and have been overseas traveling, and are now coming back where they
Right.
can, because obviously there's
Right.
been some disruption in travel at the airports, and
Right.
many are returning and volunteering to serve and come back even if
Yes.
they hadn't been called back.
Yes, it's really amazing to see how many people. I've been following what's happening with my Israeli friends and the East Coast. Everybody is trying to get on a plane, come help. Us, the civilians are organizing food to army bases, whatever equipment is needed. Local communities are putting together local guards, people to keep the community safe. I mean, the civilians of Israel, who are amazing, are really stepping up, as we always do, to do whatever we can in our power to help this unbelievably difficult time.
I don't want to keep you on long, Daniela,
Sure.
and I'm grateful that so much of the audience has stayed on to hear an additional perspective at this moment. You refer to the civilian side sort of stepping up now, doing even as brothers, cousins, sisters are being sent to the front. I know that at least part of that 20 years when you were in the States, you did a lot of work around the high tech community and startups and people who were very good at adapting
Right.
new technologies, adapting to new business environments, etc. And I think that's something that for people who don't live in Israel is harder to get a feel for. Now that you're returning, and can you describe a little bit about that aspect of Israeli society, the ability to change on a moment, your own ability to, instead of
Yeah.
being behind the camera today, helping
Right.
us communicate with the IDF,
Sure.
instead being on the camera saying how you feel as a mother?
Right. Well, I think, yes, I think we're Israelis, we're resilient, and we're also, I guess, I don't know how to say the word now in English, but like we have a gmishut machshavtit, right? We adapt, we move from situation to situation very fast. We're unfortunately very good at crisis situations because we've had so many of it in our history as a people and as a country. And I think that is something that it is, again, amazing to see how the Israeli society, the high tech, what it is helping with creating databases and apps and aggregating information, and and whoever can help with babysitting children of mothers that are nurses and the husbands are in combat. I mean, it's so overwhelming that it's mind-boggling just to see this, and also very helpful. And I think it's keeping our spirits. I think we're all trying to do something, and there is room for everybody to do something, unfortunately or fortunately, however you choose to look at it.
Well, Danielle, I'm going to close on that note because
Sure.
it doesn't get much better in terms of understanding Israeli society today. There is always been a sense that in hard times, the need to come together can overcome everything else. And we are counting on and praying for that ethos to be able to get us all through the coming days and weeks, which we know will be difficult. At the American-Israel Friendship League, we are committed to strengthening the bonds and ties between the United States and Israel, and to friends of Israel around the world, as we've discovered during the COVID period through these Zoom programs, that we can actually bring together Israelis with people around the world, bring them. We've done it in people's kitchens. We've done it in people's gardens. We've done it in outer space. We've really covered a lot of ground because of the dynamism of Israeli society. That's the first time I had to interview an IDF spokesperson in their car driving to the north, where it appears additional hostilities have created new alerts. And yet in all of those circumstances, the ability to adapt, the ability to stay focused on what needs to be done, in this case, without exaggerating, for Israeli survival and for the protection of every single individual in Israel, including now those that are captives, which is a largely unprecedented situation at this level. And so our hearts, many of which are broken at the moment, and the people who we're speaking with and working with are all dealing with that emotional and psychological reality at the same time that they're conducting these professional activities for the safety of Israel cannot be understated. So we are grateful to everyone for coming today, for the IDF of providing us such an incredible public servant and spokesperson on behalf of Israel, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. We will continue to provide programming that is ad kan, that is updated for the situation, starting with this Sunday, where Israel's former ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Gillerman, who's in the family, part of the family here at America-Israel Friendship League, he has agreed to do a very candid fireside chat where he will answer an array of questions. We hope you'll be back. We hope you'll share with friends who maybe have not seen AIFL episodes and the kind of personal, intimate stories and interactions that we've been able to provide over the past 3 years, but certainly now over the last 5 days, that will have a unique focus on how Israelis are coping with and addressing very basic changing environment on a day-to-day basis. So we're grateful to all of you for being here today. We hope you'll be back on Sunday. Wish Godspeed and safety to anyone and everyone in harm's way at the moment. Signing off for you now. I'll say Shavua Tov. Peace to all.